It's twirly thing. There we go. We are live. Welcome everyone. Hello. If you're tuning in on the replay, lovely to see you. Do give me a hashtag replay in the comments and let me know that you are here. But as you are hopping in live, I have the absolute pleasure of speaking to Michala today on our session. Michala is an accredited performance and mindset coach, a motivational speaker, author of Bounce Back from Burnout, and a children's book, Mean Little Cow, which always makes me laugh when I see you speak about that. Creator of the 90 Days to Thrive energy management movement, one-to-one, and the Be Clear and Rise Vision Board Workshop and VIP Visionary Lounge group coaching experience. She has 18 plus years teaching, training, and coaching in the education, business, and third sector, as well as 6 years as an award-winning accredited coach. Michala is passionate about helping ambitious, purpose-driven business owners who are ready for their next level to access the energy needed to create the vision of life and business. It's time to be clear and rise with Wood for the Trees coaching. Michala, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Annette.
Amazing. So the bit that I want to hone in on, Michala, is accessing the energy needed to create a vision of life and business, because I speak a lot about making sure that your business is aligned to the life you want to live, because that's how we ultimately get what we want to get. But accessing the energy to do that can be a challenge. So where do we even begin with that?
Well, we begin with the vision.
Amazing.
That's the first thing. No, you're absolutely right. And again, I was delighted to see in your book, Annette, The Profit Plan, chapter 2 is all about vision. And I was
yeah.
So I was very excited to see that. Because that for me, and this has been my experience, it's been my experience with clients. The starting point is vision, because what vision actually is it's your aspiration. It's the energy underneath what is actually happening on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes that gets a bit foggy. That gets, again, the reason I'm called Wood for the Trees coaching is because clarity equals happiness.
Yes.
The clearer we are on what we want, why we want it, what those underlying motivators are, what the values, the core values are that are driving that vision. Once we get a clear picture of that, and what equally them is going to be what would make us unaligned or basically out of alignment, then we've got that motivator, that driver, because things do get tough. I mean, let's look at what's just happened in the last 2 years. Yes. And I talk about this a lot, because again, it's like people are saying to me at the moment, well, what's the point of me putting an amazing, because again, when I do the Be Clear and Rise Vision in Action Board workshops, the life and business, and then I give them the bonus business book, because for the majority of us, particularly purpose-driven business owners who are working online like we are, we want a lifestyle business. We don't want to be in a business that is basically we're a slave to it. We want it to give us the freedoms and the flexibility that we probably started our businesses for in the first place. So if we don't start with what we want our lives to look like on the whole, how on earth then are we supposed to create a business model that meets that need? So this is why vision is really, really important, because if you get that clarity of vision, you understand what those motivating forces are underneath it, i.e. the energy underneath it. Then when we have challenges like the pandemic, it for a lot of people, it made them take stock of how their business model works for them rather than them working for it. I think it made a lot of people who, again, there's a big part of it that, again, and I don't say this to negate anybody who's had loss or, serious financial implications around this, but I think there's been an element of it which has really helped online business people in particular, with people who may be working in a more corporate or fixed environment, actually understand you're no less professional doing things working from home. You might have a few more interruptions, but again, I don't think you do actually. I mean, again, I've worked in all environments, and the amount of people stopping at your desk and just having a chat with you can be much more of an interruption than my dog barking twice when the postman comes. So
100%.
So I think I think that's really helped people in many ways to get energetically aligned about how they want their working lives to work with their personal lives. And, you know, again, I talk about this a lot in my energy management work, in that we're not robots. Our working life, and, you know, again, this is what has been difficult, I would say, or challenging for many people for many years in particularly in corporate sectors, where you're supposed to almost pretend that the outside world doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so you have a bereavement, but, you know, have a day off, get back in and crack on. And actually, you know, that's not good for us humans. And I think we can see a lot of that, you know, playing itself out with people in burnout, again, which was what I specialized in early in my journey. And because that's what had happened to me. And then what I've realized, and my business has evolved into, again, starting with vision as the first point of call, because that allows you to understand, you know, how you're moving forward. And it's really important to have a towards energy vision as well. That's something I've learned, is that my vision in my early years was very much away from. So it was me trying to get away from the financial insecurity that I'd experienced as a child. Whereas my towards energy vision now, you know, because again, I have created better financial circumstances and choices and opportunities for myself as I've grown older. And what it's allowed me now to do is step into making an impact, you know, giving people the opportunity to have this clarity of vision, you know, no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, allows you then to actually make the changes that are needed in a really positive way. And the impact of that on their family, friends, the world. You know, I've got some amazing people in my VIP Visionary Lounge who are literally out there changing the world.
Amazing.
You know, from environmental sustainability to people who created a new political party, all sorts of things going on in there. And so it's very, really important that towards energy, moving towards something powerful, something within you, that, and that again doesn't have to be on world changing, you know, levels. It can be just changing the world of your own family and the community around you as well. But it's really important that energy is what is underlying how you are evolving and how you're moving your vision forward.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I really loved that you said there. One was the whole kind of pretending you don't have a life, pretending that life doesn't exist. I know this is something that I really strongly brought from corporate into my business. And I really regret it now looking back, to the point actually where I had a baby and hadn't told my clients because I was worried what people would think, if clients would leave me, all this kind of stuff. It got to the stage where I had to tell them because I had this newborn now. But all throughout my pregnancy, I didn't reveal that I was pregnant because I was so worried about showing that I had a life. And that is, you know, I look back now and I think that's just a crazy situation to get into. But actually, it's one that we can really easily fall into when we're in that mindset.
But we've been conditioned into that mindset, haven't we? And that's the whole point. So our conditioning, and again, as young, you know, we're still young.
Yes.
You know, from young women up to, you know, as you move through the ranks within your organizations, etc. You're very much conditioned into that belief that, you know, to demonstrate any of that or show any of that, one could make you seem like you are not going to be, you know, as focused on what you're doing, or not as professional, or that you are going to be distracted. I think there's a massive unconscious bias. I've talked about this a lot, particularly with the mental load that women often carry. And again, I'm being very general here, you know, and I also accept that there are other you know, there will be single sex relationships, you know, single sex relationships that, you know, will be different. But actually, again, it's like there's an unconscious bias that women are going to carry that load. Therefore, that's one of the reasons why there aren't as many women in the top positions in boardrooms, because, you know, who's going to be having to go and do the school run, you know, or running in and go and getting them if they're poorly? The female in the scenario, usually.
Typically.
So again, all of that is playing out. Well, that triggers our amygdala, that triggers our fear. So our fear then becomes real. So you again, we talk about the mean little cowboys, but the mean little cowboys would be telling you, and your hyperachiever saboteur would be telling you, oh, Annette, you can't possibly tell your clients that you've had a baby because they're all going to run away from you. And they're all going to go find somebody who's more focused and isn't going to be juggling baby and work. So of course that was the most human reaction in way to have. But again, I think when we are visionary and we have businesses that we want to create, and I love the fact that my husband runs a corporate organization that is very visionary and how it's it's always been a very family focused firm. One of the reasons he stayed there all this time through the whole of his from training to now being the CEO, because they have been a company that very much focuses on the individual and developing them and bringing them and the best of them out. So I think, there are lots of organizations that do this, lots of companies that do this. But I think when you're creating your own business, those sorts of core values sit at the heart of your vision. And therefore, that is then the energy that you can show up in every single day, because it's okay. It's okay for you, because you will have attracted clients who I've got clients. Last week, I had my kids off with COVID. I had a false start to the new year. So I just let the people who were important in, the clients that I needed to let know, they were told, I'm still available, but I maybe have a distraction during the day that and I may come back to you later in the afternoon or whatever. And they were all fine with it, because they are all like me and they all want to have a business that works flexibly around these sorts of things.
Yeah, and I think we often forget that, don't we? We often forget that actually you do attract those clients to you that will understand your life, your vision, what you want to do. And often, what I found now is that when I do share with my clients, I'm having 3 weeks off at Christmas because that's how long the kids are off school for, people are like, great, amazing, that's wonderful. Whereas my fear in the past would have been that they would have gone, you're slack, you're flaky, you're not non-committal, all these kinds of things. I really liked as well where you spoke about having that vision that pulls you towards it rather than something that you kind of are running away from. Because I think a lot of the kind of content and conversation is around having a vision that of something that you're kind of running away from.
And so often I see this in the coaching world as well. Yeah, it's like leave your 9 to 5. It's just and it's a sort of like you're because you want to run away from that. And again, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I have created visions in that energy, so it's not a judgment on anybody. But I think once you're aware that is an issue, because again, what happens in that energy, and this is what happened to me, is that you burn yourself out. Because actually you're improving energy. And so consequently, you've got to prove something, whether it's to yourself or to the outside world or whatever. It tends to be in that sort of energy. And again, I'm not saying it can't work, but what I have found, and this to be true of many of my clients as well, is that energy then creates a hustle almost in the business, that whole hustle energy, and it's it becomes all consuming, and then they end up burning out because actually they've not got a focus on the bigger vision of how you are looked after in the middle of that as well, more often than not.
So completely.
That is why I think the towards energy is that, again, if we can get a focus on that towards energy, it just has a different feel to it. Again, it elevates where you're coming from energetically. And again, it's part of that motivation of when you're having a down day and you're not feeling it, or like I've just had a false start to the new year because my kids were off or were poorly and we were up in the night, blah, blah, blah. It's okay. It's all good. My vision hasn't suddenly disappeared and I don't know where I'm going. I'm very much still in it. And I was still, consistently available as energetically available as I could be in the space that I had within that week of, a bit of disruption. So.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. You saying your vision hasn't kind of suddenly disappeared, because I think sometimes when kind of things that are deemed to be negative happen in our business, we feel like we want to kind of flush it all down the toilet and start again, don't we? And so I guess this brings me to two questions. Is one, one main one, I suppose, is kind of how do you hold on to that vision in those more trying times and not let yourself be railroaded by things that are kind of coming at you, whether that be kids at home from COVID or, homeschooling because of lockdowns and all these kinds of things that we've had chucked at us over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And also because, there's still uncertainty. So again, amygdala triggered, me little cow is freaking out still, and also because there will have been impacts on things as well. So again, we've had to readjust ourselves. So the first thing to say is that for me, a vision, I call them vision in action boards, because that's what I want them to be, in action. I don't want them to just be pretty pictures stuck on a page. Okay, so they are vision in action boards, which makes them a working document. Now, again, you and I are very similar in that we're both quite strategic, right? So we're quite strategic minded. I've come from a business development background, it's all SWOT and PEST and, charts.
Yeah.
So we've got that background. We're quite strategic, but we look because we've seen it work, the little bit of woo, the sort of the energetics behind that. Now, the reason that I talk about that is because, again, like I say, we want this to be a working document. It's a strategy. Your board is up there and it is basically telling you what you want in your life. So then you're looking at that board and able to then tap into that energetically. So there's an actual exchange there going on. And then also it should be informing your business planning. It should be informing your marketing. It should be informing how you're running your house. All of the parts of you. It should be informing your social life. It should be informing you, what you're doing in your hobbies and your interests and what you want to do so you can literally get that board and say, okay, what part of that do I want to bring to life today? Every single day you can do that. And that's what, again, when if I've had a week like last week, there were things that I was unable to do. There were things I was able to do. And one of the things I was able to do was I'm going on some massive, massive beach walks because I knew energetically I needed that, having had not good night's sleep, etc., etc. So I just took myself off at a key moment in the day, went for a really big, massive run and walk with the dog on the beach, and I came back feeling on top of the world. Now, I wasn't in Bali. I wasn't in Byron Bay, which might also be on my, back on my board. But my beach actually is one of the best in the world. It's not got the nicest water to it, to be honest with you, with the Irish Sea, but it actually has the best sunsets. I've been in the Grand Canyon and watched a sunset. I've watched a sunset over Uluru. Do you know what? My Formby and Southport Ainsdale beachfront, sitting there with a little glass of champagne with my husband on occasion, best place in the world. So you can live your vision now. You don't have to wait for all of the pieces to be in place, for the whole puzzle piece to be there. You can create your vision every single day. And again, you can do that within your business. And that vision, that bigger stuff can then create what is going on this month, this week, this, today. Nice. It literally should be informing it all, and that is what is motivating. So we know when we've, again, many of my followers know I had a what I'd call a 2 to nearly 3 year blip with my dad paralyzing himself and then so unfortunately having throat cancer and my auntie dying. So, but what's in the middle of my vision board? Family comes first, and I never take that off, even when my business, when my boards evolve or I add or I take away from them. That's in the center. And so whilst I didn't, my business was consolidated, and I didn't, some of the bigger stuff didn't happen till after that, they had passed away, because that wasn't my focus. My energetic focus was on being available to be there for my family, as much as I possibly could. And I'll never regret that, because money can't buy that. But as soon as I was energetically available, I looked at my board, my Mean Little Cow book for children was on there, and I just thought, you know what, that's what I need. I need a fun project that actually is gonna is gonna give me a part of my vision that I want, that I've been putting on the back burner for a long time, but that actually within 2 weeks I got that money from one conversation and phone call. Again, because I didn't have the investment there, because again, I'd sort of run my reserves down during that period where I was there for the family. And hadn't had any massive, sort of a massive expansion. I literally got that money within 2 weeks, partnered with a charity, and we were able to distribute those books all over Liverpool and the Merseyside area.
Amazing.
And I got an Amazon bestseller in the May with my children were, my daughters, one of them illustrated it and one of them wrote a letter in it. And so for me, it was the fact that I'd created the book that I wish I'd had when I was a little girl, because I didn't even know until my probably mid-30s that there was an critic voice that was running the show. Didn't know that till I learned it. And so I was able to write a book that then enables young people to understand that, and the hope and the love that they can have for that voice that's trying to keep them safe, but also talk it down and soothe it so that they can move on and do stuff. Like, that was a big part of my visionary puzzle piece. And so that was the one that I chose to sort of get stuck into. Like I say, within 2 weeks, something magical happened. As soon as my energy was there, the money appeared.
Amazing. And so in terms of your vision board, do you have recommendations for people in kind of how much of it could be almost like material things? Because you hear about people's vision boards and they've got a Ferrari on there or something like that, but a lot of the stuff that you're speaking about is actually family and walks on the beach. It's actually more of the experiential side of things than the I'm gonna buy a car or an iPad or whatever.
And again, don't get me wrong, we bought our dream hybrid car this year as well. So things are on there. It's not those on, but again, it's what's your focus at a given time. So when I do the Vision in Action Board workshops, again, we go through a little process, and that is for the individual to decide what's on there, and that process then allows them to decide what is most important to them. And, there may be lots of material things and quite specific. I mean, I loved it, actually. I had one workshop where it was a face-to-face one. So obviously I just brought magazines and newspapers.
Yes.
And the one lady came and she wanted a house which had a very particular type of roofing. It wasn't like what you call it? I can't even think now. Oh, my brain's gone.
Just like this type that a child would draw.
I'm thinking.
I don't know what that's called.
A thatched cottage. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It wasn't a thatch. It's like another type of roofing, like that, like an old-fashioned roofing. So not very, Would that be in most magazines that you pick up? This literally, she turned a page, and this roofing that she wanted was on the page of this random magazine that I brought. And again, I know that she's actually worked towards achieving that. So amazing. It's and again, I had another lady, and again, this is where it's in action as well, because again, you can't just stick these things on and just expect it to materialize. Sometimes it does, but actually there's a lot of action in the Vision in Action Board. So another lady, I remember, she put a house on, but she'd taken a picture of this house that was in a particular village that her and her partner liked to go to. And when they were looking to move, she said to me, "Oh, I really want that house." And she said, "But obviously it's not for sale." And I said, "Well, what action could you take that might allow you to thinking about that?" So she said, "Oh, I could write them a letter." So she did, and they sold it to her.
Amazing. We did exactly the same, actually, with a piece of land. We knew who owned it, and we knew that they were planning at some point on selling it. And so we wrote them a letter and said, "Hi, would you accept this amount?" And they came back and went, "Yeah, actually we would." And that's how we got a piece of land as well.
Again,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think the thing is as well, some people will say, well, what's that got to do? It's not, anyone can do that, and it's not woo, etc., etc. And that's where the strategic part of me goes, no, it isn't. It is about action. However, I've also seen, like I said, those things, synchronicities happen, that without that action being, again, the energetic transfer of you taking action and then that result happening, there is almost like an electrical charge between the two that brings it to life. And so that's where, for me, it's got to be stuff that you're actually out there, working out those, even if it's just one step, You don't need, I think that's the other thing as well. People get scared. It's like, well, oh God, I put this huge thing on here, and how the heck I must be, particularly with like, you know, financial goals in businesses, etc., or business models that are going to evolve, that are going to, you know, scale, etc. They can be really scared about that. But again, it's, you don't need to know the whole, every step along the way, but you to have some key indicators of where you want to be heading, allow you then to take those steps and work it out as you go. And that's a big thing as well. It's like recognizing what power you have within you. The resilience that people have, you know, the tenacity that we have in you know, crisis and challenge situations. We don't want to be in there all the time. It's another big part of what I talk about with vision boards. Is like, you know what, don't try, it's not this isn't perfect. Even if you've got everything on there, something else may be happening in the world or in your life that isn't perfect, you know. And so to try and achieve perfection, you're never going to be satisfied, and you're never going to feel like you've actually got there. So for me, and again, I'll give you a little technique in a second that I do with people as well, is it's about recognizing that there's going to be imperfection in there, there's going to be challenge in there, that it's not all straightforward, the achieving of the vision, but what you've got on that paper is the energy in it. And that's what you want to embody and to activate on a daily basis. And the way that we can do that is to say, I'm a big advocate of Shirzad Sharmin's work in positive intelligence. And he talks about 5 sage powers. So, for, you know, having empathy, and that's firstly for yourself, but also for those around you. And that's really important. We can be super critical of ourselves. And the majority of hyperachiever saboteurs that I work with, clients who have a hyperachiever saboteur, they are, you know, they're constantly beating themselves up for not doing enough or not being, and actually when you look at them, they are more than enough. So again, that empathy for yourself.
I like to do that. I like to beat myself up a lot. It seems to be a fun hobby of mine.
Well, as I said, Mean Little Cowboys was the dominant force in my life up through until I worked out it was doing it, you know. And this has been my life's work since then, to work out how to overcome it. And I'm not saying that it still doesn't come up occasionally now, but again, I've got techniques to soothe it now. So there's empathy. The next one is for you to explore. So again, often we, as humans, we react in situations, go, oh, this is terrible, this is, you know, and actually you don't often know until later on what that opportunity actually, what that actually was, that situation. In the moment, yes, of course, I'm not saying that, you know, I love a good rant and event myself. I'm not into toxic positivity. You know, you feel something, let it go, let it feel it, you know, let it go through the full cycle. But then you regroup and you say, okay, let's look at this with a bit of perspective. Let's look at this in terms of what is it? Okay, what is actually happening right now? And then you use your creativity power, because we're such creative beings. You go and hang out with any kids for half an hour in a playground and you will see what creative beings we are. But again, life, adulthood, environments end up squashing that creativity. So it's about tapping back into that innate creativity that we have, and we can work out how to get out or round or under or over almost any situation in our lives. You know, we really can. And then the other one is navigating. So again, making decisions, clear decisions. That's really important. And, you know, then be honoring that, saying, okay, this is the decision. Right now, it feels right. It might be a terrible decision in the long run. You don't know. But right now it feels the right thing to do. So therefore I'm going to move forward with it. And then I'll deal with whatever is happening in the future if something is to be overcome in the future. But it feels like it's the right decision now. And then the final one is activation. So again, we're back into action. You know, it's really important for us to recognize that it's not, and our action can sometimes be inaction, as in being in recovery as well. So that's where my energy management principles come in terms of managing your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, and your physical energy. We can not be on all the time as humans. It's not our natural. It's not natural. So therefore, which also
perfectionists like to try and do.
Absolutely. So again, if you've got a stickler or a, you know, and a hyperachiever saboteur, those are the two that sort of tend to feed that perfectionism. You're going to want to be switched on all the time. So again, managing those two dark parts of that mean little cowboy, as I like to call it, or Shirzad Sharmin calls it, the judge, that therefore is what is needed for you to just say, it's safe for me to rest, it's safe for me to relax, it's safe for me to step back a little bit. The world is not going to implode, my business is not going to go under. But again, we do it consciously. You're not just going off and, it's a very conscious part of your action plan because it's about you. And this is why it's about performance, and I say performance as being happy, confident and engaged. Well, when we're in constant work mode, I don't see many people feeling happy, confident and engaged. And that's where you want to be. That's the sweet spot of being in action. So those are the things that are really important. I did mention a technique. So as I say, we're going to face challenge when we're heading towards, it might be that you're going to have to put yourself out your comfort zone to make that call or to put that press release out or to write your book. Both of us have put ourselves in that lovely judgment space where people can tell us whether it's good or bad. So all of those things take take a toll in terms of it doesn't always feel comfortable. That stretch where we learn and we grow, that's not comfortable often. What we can do to help and support that again is we can use that mindset trick of the brain doesn't know what's real and not real. So visualization can really help. So I know a lot of law of attraction coaches and people who are doing vision boards talk about visualizing the end goal. But again, studies have shown that actually students who actually visualize themselves studying and preparing for the exam got better exam results than the people who just studied seeing themselves getting the A stars on the board. It's
interesting.
Been really, really well studied in America, this. So visualize yourself doing the things that are uncomfortable, how you're managing yourself in that scenario and how you're managing yourself. I do this even with just like how to manage my teenagers in the morning.
Yes.
Because more often than not, that can end up in a not so great situation where one of them decides that leaving the house at 8 minutes past when the train is at 10 past is a good idea every day. So, my vision, I have to visualize me being peaceful and calm in that scenario. It doesn't always translate. However, it really helps. And so again, if you're making, if you're pressing publish on that book or sending off that press release to a big publication or ringing that, really big client that you really want that proposal that you put in, visualize all the steps, including the achieving it and then the follow-up of that as well. Like, what's the outcome of that as well? What does that mean? Because again, we can get scared about, oh God, if I put that press release in and then suddenly I'm in the national press and I could be flooded, or, brain will be fearing the success as much as it would feel a rejection. So you can, you can work out, okay, well, what would that look like? Right. Well, I would have a VA who would be fielding these calls, or I would be making sure that I've got a program that's ready and available for people to buy quickly so that they can access me without me having, it's really thinking through all the parts of it, visualizing it. And that is just telling your subconscious, she's safe, she's okay, she knows what she's doing, and she's got all of the contingencies in place. So just calm down, back off, me little cowboys, you do not need to be involved here.
I love it. I love it. So in terms of kind of updating our vision in action boards and how often should we be looking at that kind of thing?
Again, it will be up to you. I mean, I would say if you're doing it too often, it's a procrastination. It's just your avoidance saboteur getting involved because, ultimately, you want to have enough time and focus for you to be achieving the things that are on it. When I do the workshop, we'll do anything from a year, because again, sometimes when people come in with overwhelm, they can't see past next week. So asking them to, have a 10-year legacy business isn't where they're going to be. But what they do want to see is, from here to the next year, how do I want to feel? What do I want things to look like? They can get there. Other people actually, they're at a certain point in their business or their life where they think, what, I got to here. This isn't working well, like you did with your business. You got to a certain level of success, but actually the model wasn't working for you properly anymore. It wasn't giving you that lifestyle that you want. So therefore, you were in a transition period. That would have been you did it. That was a good time to redo the vision and, create a new vision, which would allow you then to bring on those other parts of the model that are then going to bring you the full life, not just the business vision. So there are different points that you'll come at this. There's no right or wrong way, because again, I say my hashtag is hashtag sod the shoulds, as you know.
Of course.
There are no shoulds.
Yes.
What I would say is, though, if you're if you're redoing it every 4 to 5 weeks, then again, really, you're not giving yourself a chance for things to manifest, for things to come into play, and you're not giving yourself enough time, for this. And again, timelines are just things that we create so that we've got some focus. The right time will happen when the right time will happen, and some things will work and some things won't work. But ultimately, it's just allowing us to work within the context of some parameters, so we have got focus, because otherwise it just all drifts. And
and I guess that if you're doing it really frequently as well, you're probably missing out the action step.
Yeah, ultimately. And again, it's nice to dream, it's nice to put nice lovely things on there, but then if there isn't, as I say, that's one of the reasons why I opened the VIP Visionary Lounge after the workshop, because a lot of the people who had done it said, we want a space now where we can come and actually have the accountability to create it, but also we want to maintain the energy of it. So that's what we do on a monthly basis. I do an energy reboot every Monday. Before I've done this, I've done an energy channeling. We've focused on creativity today. Every week we bring ourselves back consciously to our vision boards, so that then we can say, okay, so how's this playing out this week? What's it look like? What's the core focus? What's important? What's gone well? What's not gone well? And all the reviewing around that can happen.
Amazing. Michala, this has been fascinating. I love it. You've inspired me to redo my vision in action as well. I've got my vision board is up here on my pin board, right by my desk, and I think mine probably needs a little bit of a refresh. But like yours, in the very center of mine, it says family. So that's what's core for me as well.
It's so important, and I've got the vision board. I've got my next Be Clear and Rise Vision in Action Board workshop on Friday, and
amazing.
The reason I've done it again, I've given myself and others, a chance to not everybody is ready to hit the ground running in January, from January 1st. So, and again, I don't know whether I manifested my kids off with COVID, because I said, oh, let's just lean into January. But that's where we are. But it's again, New Year. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. New Year, New You. That I run these sort of quarterly, basically, so that people who are at that point where they need that transitionary energy and looking at what they want to move towards, that's when they can come and do it with me. And again, doing it in that energetic space and having a process, because we don't actually do the board on the Friday night. We do that over the weekend. They go away and do it over the weekend, but I take them through an energetic process that gets them into the right energy, so that then they can go off and do the cutting, sticking, and being all creative and pretty with the boards. And like you, I have a pin board. Mine's done on a cork board with pins, so I can. It's a working document. It moves around. It changes.
I love that. This has been amazing. I have really, really enjoyed speaking to you. I know that our listeners and watchers will have loved it too. And those that are on the podcast listening to it later, I'm sure will get a huge amount out of this as well. So I thank you massively for coming on. We will include the links for people as well. So we'll get that link for the workshop out to people too that want that link. We'll obviously include all your social handles and all those things as well. But Michala, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Annette. Speak to you soon.
Take care. Bye.